I'm Chip Townsend, and this is the Team Chip Podcast. All right, guys, welcome back to the Team Chip Podcast. Man, I'm so excited to be here. I keep saying it. I know every week I wear you out with that. Man, I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast, getting something out of it, getting some nuggets, some help. We love doing it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all of those things. We're so thankful for you guys out there listening. And remember, if you like to take things in visually, jump on YouTube. We have it on there. Just search up YouTube, The Chip Townsend on YouTube. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about just me, by myself. We're going to talk a little bit about the power of asking great questions, bold questions, and how sometimes those bold questions can lead to better deals, like, being confident in the way you ask, etc. So just asking powerful questions. I had this experience one time where I went into, let me back up. We bought a house and we'd been waiting we lived for 9 years above our school in some efficiency apartments. And so it was long. We expected to live up there for a couple of years, but we stayed up there for 9 years. We sold our original home that we had so that we could buy some more property and extend what we had there. And we couldn't afford the mortgages. And it was like, okay, why don't we just move upstairs? And we had these efficiency apartments. So anyway, we lived up there for 9 years. Well, during that 9 years, I encouraged my wife. I said, hey, just kind of be watching all the time. We'll just be watching. We'll watch the market. We'll watch, for the neighborhoods that, maybe we kind of want to be in. And one of these days we'll come across a deal that'll fit for us. And we'll, maybe by then have grown our business enough that we can afford to get back out and get back into a home. And so anyway, over that 9 year period that was supposed to be like maybe 3, we finally come across a house, and it's the house that we live in today. And so whenever we found this house, and that's a whole nother easy episode that we could go through, the deal that we made on this house and the way that we did it. But when we found it, we had been saving up some money for, buying a house and being prepared and all these things. And so I had put a little bit of money away because I wanted to be able to put, get us at our apartment, we had an old TV and just kind of some junky equipment that we were using around there for house. And I was like, we move into a nice house. It's kind of going to be our forever home. I wanted to be a great home, for the kids, the family, etc. So I had saved up some cash, right? And what I was going to use that cash for is once we got into the house and things were kind of good and we realized, we're good, I wanted to get an entertainment system. I wanted a nice TV, a nice sound system and some other stuff. So anyway, we get to this point where we go, yep, I think we can do it. We got a little cash put up. The house is doing good. We're, business is good. And so we go to a store, an electronics store, and it was actually Best Buy. And I think it's important that you know that, because a lot of times what I'm about to tell you, I think may surprise you, and a lot of people don't realize you can do this. So we go into Best Buy, and I took cash. And one of the lessons I learned a long time ago is cash talks. People listen whenever you pull out cash. If you start negotiating for something and you're going to, you're talking with credit, or you're talking, it's somewhat influential, but what I mean is when you actually pull money out of your pocket and go, I got cash to pay for this, people will go, oh, no credit card fees. Now there's all these reasons. They go, oh, you're serious. Yeah, like I'm serious. So anyway, I took a wad of cash and I folded it up and I stuck it in my pocket. Glenann and I went to Best Buy, and I get a basket and I go through and I start gathering up equipment. I go, I kind of know what our budget is. I'm watching the prices on things as we go around, and I want that TV and I want, this, and we're talking about, hey, what do you feel about that? And so we gather up all this stuff. So we ended up getting, I think it was like a 70-inch flat screen TV. And at the time they weren't super cheap like they are now, or relative to what they were like. They were pretty expensive. So we get this, pretty nice TV to put up, and we get an amp and tuner and a surround sound set of speakers. And I got kind of nice speakers. And we had a really old, clunky original Xbox, and there was a newer version out, and I wanted to get a newer version. So when we do play games on the weekends with the kids, we could play on a nicer, newer Xbox. And so we picked up an Xbox, and of course, then you have to have controllers, and you have to have cords and HDMI and, all these things. And so I'm gathering all this stuff up, and I'm piling it in this basket. Well, a young man comes along during this process, and he's helping me out. And he's like, "Can I help you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gathering up some stuff for kind of an entertainment system for the house. And, we've been saving for a long time and kind of ready to pull the trigger on this deal." And so gathering things up, I get it all stacked up and literally have the basket running. We don't even have everything that we have. You couldn't put all the speakers and all the stuff in there, but I got the basket like basically running over. So we're pushing the basket along, about to head to the register, and I stopped and I looked at him and I said, "Hey," I said, "I just got a question for you." I said, "What kind of deal are you going to meet me on all this stuff?" Now, this episode is about bold questions. And the kid looks at me like confused. He's like, Sir, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well," I said, "we're small business entrepreneurs." And I said, "We're not rich." I said, "We've worked our honeys off for a period of time to save up some cash." And I tapped my pocket and I said, "I am ready to pay for this." I said, "But I want you to make me a deal on it." And he's like, "Well, I can't do that." Man, divine intervention. A guy is walking by in a yellow Best Buy shirt, and it turns out he's a manager, and he hears me and he goes, "Excuse me, can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I was just, talking to this young man, your team member here. And I said, we're buying all this stuff for entertainment, system for a house and self-employed. We're not super rich, but, I said, I want you guys to make me a deal on it." And the guy looks at me without batting an eye and he said, "Follow me." And so I pushed the basket along and we follow him over to the register. And so I didn't think at the time, I didn't look, was it the end of the month or maybe the end of a quarter or something? It didn't even pop into my head, but I said, he said, "Well, he said, you want a deal?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I have cash in my pocket. I'm going to pay cash for all this." I said, I need a deal on it, man. Make me some sort of deal. I'm here. I'm buying a lot of stuff. This is quite a bit of money, worth of stuff. So basically it was just a little over $3,000 worth of equipment, TV and Xbox and speakers and all this stuff that I'd kind of gathered up. And he's looking at it and he goes, "Okay." So he has his little manager number, I guess, and he starts typing his manager number in. He would scan a product, put in a discount, boom, 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 boom. And there's like 2 Xbox controllers, and he looks at me and goes, "Hey, what I'm going to do on these, I'm going to just give a buy one and get one." And hey, no problem. Sounds good to me. So he goes through. Anyway, the point of the story is I ended up buying a little over $3,000 worth of stuff for $1,700. And I know people, I tell the story sometimes, I don't really talk about it a lot, and people are absolutely dumbfounded. They're just like, "No way." But it's way. It happens. And the point of it is you have to be willing to ask. If I'm a salesperson, I have to ask for the business. If I'm buying something, I have to ask for the deal. And here's the thing, man. There was no rude. I wasn't condescending. I wasn't rude. I just told him, "Hey, man, we're not rich. I've got cash. We've been working hard for a long time, saved up a little money. I'm kind of, I guess, maybe touching his heartstrings a little bit. I just need you to make me a deal. I know you can." And I was super confident in the way I approached it, very respectful in the way I approached it. And I think it would have been different if I'd have said, "Hey, give me a discount." Right. And I think sometimes people enter things like that, like they're entitled to some handout, right? Or whatever, and I knew I wasn't entitled to anything. They were entitled to charge their retail price. I just politely asked and confidently asked. And so the manager goes through, blah, 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 and he gives us this discount. And anyway, we end up spending $1,700 for a little over $3,000 worth of equipment. And one of the funnest parts of the whole thing is we're basketing and carting all this stuff out, and they're actually helping us take it out to the vehicle because there's a lot of stuff. And we're walking along, and I'll never forget this because the whole time Glen Ann is just quiet. She really doesn't say anything. And we're walking outside, and she grabs my arm and she goes, "What did you just do?" And I said, "Well, babe, what do you mean?" She said, "How did you do that?" I said, "I just asked." That's it. It's just that simple. I just asked. When you're coming up on a deal, when you're coming up on something big, just ask yourself, what is the worst thing that can happen? And most of the time, if you're on the buyer side asking for a deal, what's the worst thing that can happen is they can say no. and very commonly, they might even throw you a counter offer, and the counter offer might be great. And it might not. And that opens the door for you to maybe recounter the counter, right? And it can become a game. And it depends on what you're buying. But I just want to encourage you, really, everything when you really think about it, everything is negotiable in some way, form, or fashion. And I'll tell you, I've had people come into our martial arts school and negotiate monthly rates with me. I actually respect it. I'm like, man, this is cool. I'm proud of you for asking. I have no problem with that. Ask away. And so I love this kind of stuff. It's kind of making a deal, make the deal. And so anyway, she's like, how did you do that? And I was like, baby, I just asked. I said, I know for a fact this is a, multi-$100,000 business, and they have room to negotiate. And whenever I first asked the first associate, I already knew he wasn't going to be able to answer that question, most likely. He was going to go, what? Are you kidding me? There's no way I can do this. And by, again, some kind of divine providence, this manager walks by and it all works out. And he takes me right to the register. And maybe, in hindsight, maybe they were kind of close out the month and just needed to move stuff. There's a lot of factors that could have played into that even I didn't notice. But the point of the conversation is just boldly and respectfully and humbly ask. Don't hold back. And, this is a little counterintuitive, I think, in ways in my mind to some of the things that I say on the podcast. If you have a friend that owns a business, don't ask. Help your friend succeed, right? And, and that's relative too. You got a friend that's got a, 40-year-old business and they're killing it. Maybe that's different. You ask for a little discount on a set of wheels and tires for your car from your friend. But if they own a little restaurant and they've had it for a year and they're trying to make ends meet, don't go ask them for free French fries. You're not entitled to that. And if you're truly a friend, you'll be happy to pay them because you'll be happy to help feed their family and take care of those people, right? So, but in these situations where I'm going out to buy the new washer and dryer, the new refrigerator, I always ask and I always negotiate, and almost 100% of the time, not every time, I walk away with some sort of deal. And I'll give you another example, just kind of a fun side example here. We had to buy a monitor to put into our martial arts school one time. And I might have been buying two, I can't remember, but a sizable monitor to put on the wall for a display and for some video work we were doing. It might have actually been around COVID. I don't remember the timeline, but I bought it at Walmart and I went back, looked at it. It was a little more than I wanted to spend. So we brought it up to the register. They scanned it and I said, ma'am, I want you to make me a deal. Can you give me a discount on it? And obviously this associate goes, oh no, we can't do that. There's no way. And I said, I think there is a way. I said, can you call a manager? And keep in mind, listen to my tone and my inflection. I didn't say, oh yes, you can. I did not. Don't look down and talk down to people. I just said, yeah, I think it's possible. Would you be willing to call a manager? Can you call a manager so we can just at least let me ask them? And she goes, are you serious? You want me to call a manager? And I said, yes, ma'am. I'd like for you to call a manager. There's no problem. I just want to ask, right? And she goes, okay, I'll do that. So she calls a manager. Manager comes there. I said, ma'am or sir, I can't remember at the time. It was a man or woman. Hey, I want to, give me a little discount on this. And I pulled out cash. I'm paying cash. I need a little discount. And, kind of looks at me and goes, well, we can't do that. And I said, actually, I think you can. I think you have the power as a manager to maybe give me a little percentage off, just a little something. I guess let's try. And they go, well, I guess I could do that. And I think I got like 10% off. It was not huge, maybe 15. It wasn't a big thing, but it saved a few bucks. And it was kind of a principle thing. Everything's negotiable. If you have the time and you have the ability and you're really trying to be frugal in your business and you work hard and you approach it right, don't feel entitled to it, just ask. Bold questions can lead to opening some unexpected doors. And so many people miss opportunities to save a little money and to be a little bit of a miser and be frugal because they just simply don't ask. And a lot of them people just don't know that you can. So now you can ask. Another just kind of quick fun one. You know what? I may save that for another episode because I have one that I did with my daughter one time to help her to learn as a young, almost adult, preteen, or young teenager actually. But always ask. Bold questions lead to better deals, better systems. And when you think in terms of not just making deals, but even your own, business or your own household, sometimes step back and objectively just kind of ask yourself, how can we run this more efficiently? What could we do better? Is there a better system? What would make, this program more valuable? So those are kind of internal questions maybe. But whenever you're out there in the world making deals with people, the questions are, not what can you do for me, but, hey, can we make a better deal on this? Maybe a little better deal from my side. And you might be surprised at how many times people will look at you and actually respect the fact that you ask and ask. And I keep beating this up with respect and humility, but you're willing to ask. And remember, engage your team too in these conversations and help to educate them about this ability to ask powerful questions, but be asking them those questions around the operations of your business and stuff. What can we do? And even you're outside your clients sometimes, survey them and find out, what are better things that we can do. And remember, when you ask these questions, ask with humble confidence, knowing that there's sometimes a better way or a better deal available. Never enter with arrogance and entitlement. And don't be pushy. Just always respectful of their space and respectful of the fact that many times another employee in another business, they really won't even know that they can, and so don't just run them over. Just go, hey, maybe we can. I think there might be a way. Can we maybe talk to a manager, but be bold, ask for what you want. Think through what's the worst thing that can happen. They say no big deal, not a big deal at all. I may just have to pay a little more. And, today's the day that I have to do that. And it was what I would normally pay anyway, right? It was, so what's the worst thing that can happen? Kind of go beyond the surface. And what I mean, the surface that maybe that associate that's not sure, just kind of nudge them a little politely. Hey, can you get someone out here that can go a little deeper? And, doing this with, again, humble confidence might open some amazing doors to surprise you with what you can do. So anyway, just thought it was kind of a fun story. I share that sometimes and people are just like mind boggled. And in a way, I was a little boggled too by how much we saved in that situation. A little over, it was like $3,100, $3,200 maybe worth of stuff for $1,700. Man, we saved a ton of money. We were able to put that back into savings and it was great. And all I had to do again was ask. Well, hope you guys enjoyed that. Just kind of a fun story. Remember, everything in some format, some way is negotiable. Just be willing to ask. And remember, I know I've said it over and over, but ask with humble confidence and respect for who they are and what they are. And if you're prepared and you're just buying a TV, be prepared to pay the full price because sometimes it doesn't work. But if you approach it well, there's a good chance you might make a deal that you didn't expect to make. Again, hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you got some nuggets out of it. I'll be back to share more. Subscribe, follow us. I know I've already said all those things, but shoot us a message. Let us know what kind of topic you'd like to hear about, some history on our business or our lives or whatever. Just let us know because we just love sharing and I hope that it's encouraging to you guys. Y'all go out there and have a great day. Thank you for tuning into the Team Chip Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget, subscribe, share, and or leave a review because we need you. We appreciate you so much. And without you, we can't make this happen. Remember, consistency is the key to success. So go out there and never be outworked.